Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, The Final Straw, entitled Boss Fired Employee for Refusing Weekend Work. The second story, The Most Epic Quit from a Toxic Company Ever. The third story, Dealing with an Entitled Neighbor's Parking Woes. The first story is, My entitled boss laid me off for refusing to come in on my weekend off. I've been in retail since 2009, and my now last job I was there since 2014. I won't go into huge details about the work environment, but to summarize, in the whole time I was there, my boss, despite always saving family time as important, he would always screw over my personal time off. When I worked directly under him, a lot of times he would cancel my days off because he was taking a trip somewhere. Couple with that and childish and immature coworkers who threw tantrums and gave silent treatments, I was at the end of my rope. My job mostly consisted of delivering building material. I had a certain certificate to operate a certain type of delivery truck. The certification was going to expire at the end of the year. About a week or so into January, HR came to do a review with me. During the review, they mentioned they are holding a course to revalidate the certification for everyone in the company in 2 weeks. They said it's on your weekend off, but are you able to attend? I looked at my calendar and said I had plans booked that day, so it doesn't work to my schedule. My company wanted to get everyone done at once. That way they save money on group training. HR just said, see what you can do to attend, and I said that the plans were set in stone, and things were left at that. About a week before the course, HR emailed again, saying this course is critical for my job, so to try and attend. I replied it doesn't work for my schedule, that I'd be happy to do it any other day, but this is going on during my weekend off, where I made plans well in advance, so it doesn't work for my schedule. For a few days, there was nothing else. My boss owns a few stores, and one worker from another store came by who was also going to the course. They told me he had been making plans with his fiancée for the last several months for that weekend, but had to cancel them because they suddenly revealed this training course and had to attend. He wasn't too happy plans he made for months had to be canceled. I said nothing to him, figured it was his choice if he chose to do that. Then suddenly my boss began phoning me 2 days before the course. I recorded the conversation. Maybe in the future I'll upload it, but for now, I'll just transcribe what was said. AB will stand for A-hole boss. And just for some context, earlier that week I got a work truck stuck in the snow, and called a tow truck to pull me out, and paid for it myself. It'll be important for what happens next, and this is roughly how it went. AB: Hey OP, HR tells me you're unable to attend the training course. OP: That's correct. I unfortunately made plans in advance, so I can't attend. AB after a moment of silence: I need you to get this training done. OP: I understand that, but I made plans well in advance that I can't just cancel. AB: Okay, you realize when we notify you 2 weeks in advance, it doesn't mean it's optional. This is mandatory. At this point, I was starting to get mad. OP: I understand that, but I've been planning this weekend since early December. I'll be out of a lot of money if I cancel. AB: What are you doing? OP: That's a private matter. I can't discuss that. AB after a moment of silence: OP, how much is that towing bill costing me? OP: I paid for that myself because that was my screw-up. AB silent again for a few seconds. Okay, then you're gonna have to do this training on your own time and your own money then. The training itself cost only a few $100s, but by this point, I had had it with my boss. OP: Well, we will cross that bridge when we get there. AB silent again. It's pretty rich coming from you. OP: Well, I'm sorry, but I received no heads up. No communication this was being planned for that date. I know there were plans to do the training early December, but never heard anything about it since either September or October. AB silence again. OP: I'm not happy right now. OP: Well, I'm sorry, but I have a life, and I just can't cancel things when I make plans on my day off. AB silence again. Okay, good enough. Bye. OP: Bye. So for a week I heard nothing. Continued my job as normal while looking for a new job, because I had it with my boss. 9 years of all this, I had reached my breaking point during that phone call. This boss has always screwed me over for my personal time off, and this was the last straw of trying to force me to come in on my scheduled weekend off. And then 1 week later, towards the end of the day, HR showed up. They informed me they were laying me off due to extreme slow season, with hopes of having me come back in spring. I said nothing, choosing to leave on a high note, but I knew it was really their way of firing me without firing me. That way, they avoided paying severance, which would have been in the tens of thousands of dollars. I estimated between $10,000 and $40,000. I already looked into it. Unfortunately, I have no real way of proving if this is retaliation. All their paperwork, though I know a lie, said I was laid off for lack of work, etc. The only proof I have is recently I had to contact the insurance provider for my company to get a letter of experience from them. The agent I spoke with said he recognized my name, saying my now former employer recently removed me from their insurance coverage. Other than this backhanded move, I'm glad to be out of there. I was unhappy, stressed, and fed up. I'm using the time to advance my driver's license to have the highest one I can get in my country. To be honest, I'm a little shocked. This story is an example of irresponsible and inattentive management's attitude towards employees. The boss was overly demanding and negligent of his employees' personal time, and this is completely unacceptable. The employee's refusal, which was justified by previously planned personal affairs, should have been respectful. Instead, the boss was aggressive. This is simply unbelievable. Moreover, this behavior had been going on for several years. It's hard for me to understand how you stayed in this job for so long. Using the pseudo-reason of the deteriorating season to dismiss you is just an indicator of dishonorable behavior by the employer. It's so despicable. I'm sorry you've been put in this situation, but your reaction and solution to get out of it is reasonable. You deserve to be respected and have your time and personal life respected. Let this situation be a step towards a better and more supportive work environment for you. The second story is my only cool I quit story. Was contract for local large company, which owns stuff. They essentially laid off their entire IT staff, then contracted everything to EDS, who then rehired the people at 20% cut. It was an SH hole, but whatever. My recruiter's a moron, but that happens in the IT world all too often. Anyway, I come in, I start fixing the issues with the lack of headcount and procedure. Things are running 1,000 times smoother in the first few months I'm there. Documented builds, lower MPI, etc., etc. Everything is great, except my boss is a total jerk-off. This is the only time I've ever experienced racism, and I'm white. My boss was black and 3 out of my 5 coworkers were also black, although they were effing awesome. For whatever reason, this guy just hated me. No matter what I did, there was always something wrong with it. He would find the most interesting ways to twist my statement or not let me finish a sentence. Now I'm not usually confrontational, so I kept my bearing and just pushed myself harder to gain his respect. Had it not been for both my black and white and one Asian coworkers all coming to the conclusion that this guy was a racist D to anyone not black, I would have figured he was just a regular C-bag. One day I'm down in the server room putting together my masterpiece of an SAN architecture. Headhunter comes in. He says that they've had multiple complaints on me from guess who, and that after several attempts to let me resolve it, they were letting me go. I asked him what point he, the actual company I worked for, not this client, had ever spoken to me about this. It's usually a huge no-no for a company to deal directly with the contract guy on HR matters, legal stuff. He didn't have an answer. I then asked if they could produce anything that backs up these claims because they're essentially BS. They didn't. So I'm like, F it. I didn't need this level of stress anyway. I said, okay, well, it's come to that. Do you have my check/final check? It was payday. They did them manually. He gave some BS story and essentially made it sound like I wasn't going to get paid for the last month, which any labor lawyer would have a field day with. I was already in a bad mood, but this just topped it. I just walked out and started heading towards the lobby exit. He says, I need that hardware, SH laptop. I said, okay, I'll leave it at the front desk. Didn't even turn around to look at him, and keep walking. He said, what? I told him directly this time, I understand. I'm leaving the premises and will be happy to drop off all the gear with a security guy. You can stand there and do an inventory if you want. I need it to be in front of witnesses and signed off on. It's standard procedure if you actually read the company handbook. I turn and keep going. He starts to follow me down the hall and in the lobby yells out, hey, I'm talking to you. I need that hardware. Come back here right now. I guess that calm part of me just shut off for a moment. I took the laptop out of the bag. As I'm walking, I chuck it straight over my right shoulder as I continue to walk. It hits the granite tile floor in this massive corporate lobby, shattering into lots of bits. Entire place goes silent. People just stare at me. No one knows what the hell just happened. I get to the big glass front door. It's locked. I turn to the security guy and say open the door in what my wife describes as Marine command voice. The poor guy is visibly freaked out and just buzzes the door open. I walk out of the building straight to my car, call the wife and tell her. She's actually happy it went down. I hated the environment. I leave without any other incident. I go home, grab a beer, and call up some contacts. I have a replacement job in 3 days. I get a call 2 days later from the headhunter D-Bag and his boss. They're like, we really need to talk about that laptop. I inform them that in the great state of Derpalina, the contractor is not responsible for the materials. The company is. Good luck footing the bill for the replacement. I also said that they could courier my final check to my home within the next few days to avoid any labor board inquiries. They were silent. A day later, I had my check. Had lunch with my now ex-coworkers. I had become a legend. They bought drinks. Many lulls were had. Fast forward 6 months. In a new job with one of my old companies and loving it. Walking down the hall, I see D-Bag Recruiter. He's stunned to see me. Asks, what are you doing here? I told him I run the IT department. I then say I saw the meeting agenda today at 3 for your pitch on augmenting our staff. Unfortunately, we won't be needing the services of your company. Thank you for your time, and I continue walking. That slight moment of crushing him felt oh so good. Your story of resignation is simply admirable. In the process of putting an end to a situation at work that was relatively unpleasant, you've demonstrated a great deal of courage and distinction. In addition to displaying an attitude that was not acceptable toward you, the company that you left appeared to have absolutely no appreciation for its employees. And this recruiter who tried to let you down at the last minute is just absurd. Your response was truly admirable, especially considering the circumstances surrounding the laptop, which were quite challenging. That moment when you decided to show who was the real boss instead of just handing it over was epic. You've truly become a legend who deserves respect and admiration. Additionally, the manner in which you responded to the recruiter at the new company was absolutely breathtaking. You deserve better, and I'm glad you found new satisfaction in your work. Permit this dismissal to serve as a fresh start for you and to give you the opportunity to achieve even greater success. The third story is entitled Neighbor is Angry I'm Using My Park Space. My 30 female, husband, 27 male and I live in a closed street of small houses. Each house has a parking spot, plus most people owning more than one car park in parallel in front of their house. We didn't own a car because we both worked from home and hate driving, plus public transport here is not so bad. We have a neighbor who owns 3 cars, so obviously he has no space to park them all at his house. He asked our next door neighbor, we can call him EN, if he could park outside of her house. She also does not drive, and she said yes, but EN, in order not to block his other car, parks all the way in front of my driveway. To be honest, I would not have minded if he had asked, but the fact that he just does it annoys me. Also, my family comes to visit often, and if they come by car, he usually is blocking and we have to ask him to move. And every time he gets mad as if we were asking for a favor. Anyway, I got a nice promotion that involved in-person work 3 times a week, so we decided it was time to get a car. We bought a nice practical one and got it in our park space. Well, next morning the guy was blocking my exit. I rang his doorbell like crazy. It was 6 a.m., and when he finally came out I asked him to move, and to not park there anymore. He got defensive and said that my neighbor let him park in front of her house. To what I answered, yes, but this is my house, and if you block my entrance again, I'm gonna remove your car. He moves and the next day he's blocking again. We realized he left the car open, so we let the handbrake loose and pushed the car to the middle of the street, in front of his driveway. I put a note on his windshield saying next time it's a tow truck. Put tape over his doorbell so it continues ringing, and I left as quickly as I could. He hasn't said anything, but he hasn't parked there anymore. Your reaction to your neighbor's irresponsibility is simply admirable. You stubbornly defended your rights and showed that you will not allow anyone to violate your space. It's uncomfortable that you had to take such drastic action, but sometimes it's the only way to make a person understand. Your response was absolutely brilliant. Don't let that neighbor bother you anymore. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.